Hello, everyone. Robert Yazbek here with Team Yazbek at Coldwell Banker. Delighted to have Danielle Skov with us today. Danielle, how are you?
Good, good.
Excellent. Thank you so much. As always, we are bringing you some local perspectives to shed a little light on what's going on here in Steamboat during the COVID days that we're in. Danielle is a mother of three and a fifth grade teacher at Soda Creek Elementary School. She's lived in Steamboat for 22 years and has been teaching for over 10 years. She's truly passionate about teaching and someone that is on the front lines with incredible perspective. So happy to have her here today. Danielle, I know a lot of people at first were like, oh yeah, teachers have it great. They can just work from home, but I've heard, a lot of the other side of that too. My wife being a teacher and knowing a lot of teachers, it's not all, that it's cracked up to, be in my perspective and what I've been hearing. So be excited to hear from you about your experience. So let's start out with you and your family. How are you guys holding up? We're, halfway through the 9th week of the lockdown here in Steamboat.
We are doing well. My youngest daughter is a junior in high school, so she's home with us. And then my oldest daughter unfortunately for her, was her senior year at University of Washington in Seattle, and she had to come home early, finish here, which was not how she wanted her senior year in college to be. But she is going to head back soon to Seattle when it's safe to do so, and spend the summer there. And she's actually going to be able to get her master's there next year. And since she is on the rowing team, they granted all those spring athletes another year of eligibility. And so she's going to go get her master's and get to row for another year for them. So that's really fun. And my son, who is 20 years old, he is in Montana, and he's actually stayed up in Montana, during this time. So it's been fun having the girls home, but Lark is anxious to get back to Seattle.
Interesting. Yeah, that's such a wild dynamic there too with college kids.
Yeah.
Well, good. Glad you got to spend some extra time with her there. That's neat. So you've been teaching, you're almost at the end of the year, but you've been teaching remotely for 2 months. What's it been like? Give us the good, the bad, and the ugly,
Well, at first it was just such a whirlwind, and it was just, the first several weeks were just crazy, just trying to logistically figure out how to do it. I mean, we were informed Friday that school was canceled, and by Wednesday we were up in Google Classroom and doing live Google Meets, and so it was just a lot the first couple weeks figuring things out. Our schedule worked out nice in that we had about 5 weeks before spring break, and then spring break, and then another 5 weeks. Right. Because over spring break, I was able to really spend a lot of time thinking, okay, we got through kind of the first period of just figuring it out, and now I can be more thoughtful about it for the remainder of the year. So that was nice, because the first couple weeks it was like survival mode, and then I was able to reflect over spring break and really think about what I wanted to do, and what I could do in this new format.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm sure that was a lifesaver at that point.
Yeah,
it was. Yeah, and no plan in place, right, for this, I'm assuming. I mean, it's not like you guys had this plan in case this ever happened. Yeah.
No, but I will tell you what, I will have a plan in place next year.
Now you have a plan in place, yeah.
I will be more prepared for this. I think the whole school will be for events like this where we'd have to go remote again. I would make sure, my students were really familiar with Google Classroom. I would make sure they were just familiar with some of the programs we're using now, so I wasn't having to teach them how to use those programs remotely. You know, I would kind of start the year making sure they knew how to use Google Classroom and other programs we're using.
Yeah, that's great. So have there been some silver linings or some positive things that you experienced as well?
Yeah, there really has been, especially like I said, since spring break, because I had a chance to kind of wrap my head around it. You know, we always in the spring do biographies of Revolutionary War heroes. And so I decided to still do that. And each of the kids made these memorials at home to whoever they were researching. And this week they've been presenting them on Google Meets, and it's just, they've been so amazing, truly more amazing than even in past years, because kids have had more time and they're home. And so just really neat projects that the kids are doing independently at home. And another thing that has really been great is I got 6 high school students to volunteer to host weekly book clubs. And so then the students are in a smaller group with these high school students, reading different books that they're interested in. And that's been really nice too. I think it's nice for the 5th graders to have a smaller group and to get to connect with a high school student. And it's a great experience for these high school students too. So that's has been one, you know, a couple of the silver linings.
Yeah, that's great. That's awesome. Good to hear. So what are the biggest challenges facing the, you know, Soda Creek and the Steamboat Springs School District heading into summer here?
Well, I just think, you know, the question of the day, of the year, of the summer is definitely, how can we go back next year? What's it going to look like? How can we have as much contact? I personally want to be able to have as much in-person contact as possible, but how can we do that safely? And what's that going to look like? Is it going to be phased in? You know, there's just so many questions, but I think all of us, even though the distance learning has gone better than I maybe would have guessed at the beginning, I still think all of us want to have as much in-person time as we possibly can with the students.
Yeah, that's what I'm hearing too from talking to teachers. It's like, you guys are teachers for a reason. You know, you're not teachers for the money, right? I mean, you're teachers because you care about the kids and you want to be there and teach, you know. So yeah, just because you can stay home doesn't mean it's better.
No, I think any one of us, I mean, if they said, okay, you can go back tomorrow, I would be like, great. I would be there, and I would be. And I think the great thing is I think the students really feel that way too.
Right.
First, you know, they're like, oh, cool, we don't have to go into school now. I think they would all just love to be able to go to school tomorrow if they could.
That's interesting. Yeah, that's an interesting perspective. You guys, you'd be just like the nurses and the clerics and everybody, you know, just on the front lines. And yeah, I bet you're right. 100% of the teachers would be back in the class in a minute.
In a minute, yeah. We
that's
really, I mean, I think the number one thing for all of us teachers is we just miss being with the students.
Yeah, exactly.
We miss those interactions, you know. I mean, you can have some of that via Google Meets or whatever, but it's not the same as having, and that's really why I love teaching, and I think most people love teaching. It's just that getting to be with the kids all day in class and building that classroom atmosphere and relationships, and that's really what we're all missing.
Yeah, no question. Yeah, that's tough. So, you know, not that you have the crystal ball, but do you have any predictions about what school might look like next year? Any guesses?
Well, I know that the district is considering multiple plans and different, almost like different options depending on the state of the state, you know, and anywhere from distance learning to being completely back in the school or somewhere in between. What could it look like? Would there be some sort of schedule where students are alternating days or times? I mean, I think all of our goal is to get back to where everyone is in the classroom as much as possible, but also considering there might be students, you know, it might be a type of thing where some students are later to come back because maybe a personal, you know, health risk or for other reasons. That I do think through all this, we've learned a lot about distant learning. So if we have to do some sort of hybrid, or if there's certain students who aren't able to return to the classroom, we'll be able to do it better.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, the fact that you had 3 days to figure it out, you know, and then even a week, you know, spring break or whatever, it's like just
Right.
amazing what you guys have done with the time you had. So yeah, it'll be really neat to see. Yeah, if there's still some, you know, hybrid version or something like that, how creative people get and how it evolves, you know, because it's already been really impressive.
Well, and I just think, yeah, we're all getting by the day better at it. And, you know, over the summer, I would hope that I can get more training. If it looks like, you know, we're going to have to do more of this, I would want more training this summer. But I also am hopeful that we're going to get back to where, you know, the kids that we're all in school at least most of the time.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's tough going into summer, right? I mean, not knowing if you need to be educated or not, and planning for 3 different plans at least, right? So
right. But any training, and this is what I think a lot of us have learned, like, it's only going to help me in the classroom. So even if this summer I do some training on possible distant learning, I can always use some of that in the classroom. And there are things that I'll take from this experience and change the way I teach in the classroom.
Right.
You know, there'll be some positives that came out of this experience in regards to how I'll teach in the future.
No question. That's really neat. That's another silver lining, I think, right? There's certain things that we won't go back to the same way we've done, which is cool that you're seeing that in your profession as well. Very good. Well, we always like to end on a positive note. So how are you maintaining a positive outlook? And in your case, you know, modeling that for your students as well. You got a lot of eyes looking at you through these crazy times.
I know it's funny because in the class, one thing that I've kept from pre-COVID through this time is that we usually start our day by going around in a circle, and we call it bubble up, but it's just a chance for everyone to share. Oftentimes they share something that is, you know, like something that made them happy, like, oh, I went for a bike ride with my dad, or something they're looking forward to. And that's really helped. And, you know, it was hard at first because the kids were like, it was hard for them to think of things, but now they're great. You know, oh, I'm happy it's sunny out. I'm happy I get to go outside. I'm happy, you know, and so that has really helped. And
awesome. That's great.
That, you know, and it just makes me think I really, through all this, have had so much admiration for the parents, because I just have really seen the parents also doing such a good job of maintaining that positive attitude and really supporting students both academically, because parents have had to do way more than they've had to do. And so I've really seen parents just supporting students both emotionally in that way and keeping a positive attitude, and also academically. And I would definitely say for me, that's been another silver lining, is just watching parents help their students in every way. And I feel strangely more connected to parents than I often do, because parents, I'm having to communicate with parents a lot. And we're working on projects together. Sometimes I'll do a Google Meet. A lot of times I try to set up individual ones occasionally with students, and then I'll actually meeting with and their parent. And that has been it's been really neat to see parents, teachers, and students kind of all working together for students, which is just can't happen as much sometimes when we're actually in school all day.
Yeah, exactly. Neat. That's awesome. Well, you definitely, clearly are one of those teachers that pours yourself into the kids, and it's all about the kids. So they're lucky to have you. And thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate your time. And
well, thanks for having me.
yeah, happy summer here shortly, and happy graduation and all that. And we'll see you around town.
Okay, thanks, Robert.
All right. Thank you so much. Thanks everybody for watching. Stay positive, stay well, and we'll see you next time.